So let's wrap this conversation up then with a question for all of us. What will the 2024 season be remembered for when we look back in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time? So, Owain, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
I think the thing I'm going to remember it most for, I mean, it would be easy to give the cop out answer and say if 2025 is nice and competitive, and we have that the battle that we hope that we get between four different teams, then it would be remembered as the start of that. But I'm not going to go with that. I think that's a little bit of a cop out. And instead, I think I'm going to remember it instead for. I mean, you have to remember it for McLaren getting back to winning ways. I mean, we've seen the other teams, sort of have high points, and obviously that even through the dominance of Mercedes, there were times when obviously Red Bull and Ferrari all had their day, throughout this entire hybrid era up to this point, whereas McLaren never quite did. They had to have absolutely insane races to be able to get anywhere near. That's where their wins have come from. So they've been exceptions that prove the rule, whereas with the others maybe they've actually had the ability to push Mercedes hard enough and just about beat them in certain places at certain times. Whereas McLaren, I think now are back. We've waited an awful long time for them to be truly competitive. 12 years and 12 years just to get regular race wins. Whereas and then compared to obviously the 26 years for the constructors. But that's it's been a long time coming. And as much as they've been successful ever since 1998 up until about 2012, they haven't done they haven't got the real prize, which is the constructors, and they've managed that. And I hope to see that continue, because I think that's hopefully this is a new era of McLaren that's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it definitely has been a long time coming. Sophia, how will this season be looked back on in years to come?
I mean, it kind of matches though back to my some of the 2024 season. I think the diversity of this season, different race wins, history being made, records being broken, drivers making debuts, saying goodbye to legend drivers as well mid seasons. Daniel Ricciardo at the end of the season, Valtteri Bottas, Kevin Magnussen, most races in the season as well, and sprint races providing actual good racing and good watching for the fans. I feel sorry for new fans if this was the first season that you've ever watched, because let's be honest, 2025 will not be this. There's just so many different, I'm trying to put into words, like each race weekend, there was something new to watch, whether it was a driver driving for their life or the unexpected grids or penalties coming into place. Like there was just so much. It wasn't, I can't remember one race this season where I'm like, I fell asleep like mid race because it was that boring. Each race weekend, there was always something to watch and there was always something to look back on as well. And from watching it, I've not seen a season this intense as well, compared to like the previous full seasons I have watched. So the chaotic and diverse of 2024, I think, is definitely going to be what it's going to be remembered for.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a good book, wasn't it? You got 24 different chapters and a few on the on the ends either side. It was like a very well crafted story. For me, I'm going to sort of stay on the McLaren theme here. I think this is going to be looked back on in one of two ways. It's either where Lando Norris emerges as a title challenger and then goes on to become a world champion, or it's Oscar Piastri who wins his first races, then goes on to become a dominant force because that boy is good. But they're in the same team. This is why I posed the question to you earlier, Sophia. They're in the same team. Only one of them can become world champion. So who will it be? Will it be either of them? I mean, it's just such a fascinating story. I think in some ways it'd be quite fun if McLaren had by far and away the fastest car for 2025 and we just had like a Mercedes sort of thing where it was Hamilton and Rosberg, but this time it's Norris and Piastri. I think that would be very, very enjoyable because they're both hard racers, but you've also got this sort of dynamic where neither one of them really wants to lose to the other driver. So yeah, it would be interesting to see them to sort of push their sort of partnership to the limit, I think. I think some people may jump at the sort of Lando's too nice sort of thing, but he's shown he can get his elbows out. But Piastri, I think, is just so unflappable. He'd be very difficult to sort of upset and sort of throw off of his step. So yeah, that two storylines out of so many that we need to watch for in 2025.